Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest once again, breaking down some Toronto Raptors and Ben Simmons news. Riker, you got the new backdrop, you're out there chilling in Vancouver, but whether we're in the same place, whether the season, the news has died down, Ben Simmons is continuously connected to the Toronto Raptors, and I guess I'll play the trade news segment for this. May as well, bust out some sort of segment, but Shams of The Athletic, one of the two guys you can sort of trust on these rumors, because we're done breaking down the little tiny Ben Simmons rumor stuff, but if Shams is breaking it, we gotta talk about it, and the 76ers have conducted expansive discussions with several teams for Ben Simmons, including Minnesota and Toronto. However, neither the Timberwolves package nor the Raptors proposals has appealed to the 76ers as of yet. So Riker, after this entire summer and blasphemous offers and proposals from the 76ers earlier, if people remember, asking for Lowry, Fred, OG, and the fourth pick, they're still trying to send us Ben Simmons after everything that's happened, Riker.
They need that man out of their organization. My question here, because we both don't want him, there is a faction of Raptors, I'm holding my nail clippers, there's a faction of Raptors fans that still want Pascal Siakam to be traded, especially now that we've brought in Scotty Barnes. They think that Pascal Siakam might inhibit Scotty's development and his ability to flourish as kind of a small forward, power forward, because obviously, we want him to play in tandem with OG on the court. Yep. So my question is it the Raptors still wanting to insert themselves in the trade sweepstakes when everybody else seems to stay away from Ben Simmons? Or is it the 76ers repeatedly approaching and the Raptors just saying, well, if you're offering, this is the best that we can do? What do you think is the most likely of those two scenarios?
I feel like the Toronto Raptors probably initiated some discussions early this offseason when we didn't have a center or we didn't have a clear sort of direction as a team, right? We weren't sure what we were going to do. And then the Raptors probably offered something decent to the 76ers. There was a point where the odds were in the Raptors' favor for landing Ben Simmons, that we were talked about as the top sort of contender for landing this guy after the Sixers were sending him out to every different team. Then obviously the talks died down. The Sixers offered us something horrific, and that was all reported. Rumors have it that the Raptors leaked that and probably discussions fizzled out. But now, Daryl Morey's knocking back on those doors because we've broken down some of it on Courtside Digest. There's so much drama. There's so much everything coming out that with the young socialite Ben Simmons that it's tough to sort of break it all down. But we've talked about it a good bit on Courtside Digest. But Ben Simmons is willing to sit out of training camp to force his way out of Philadelphia. There's been rumors that he just has completely cut off contact with anyone within the organization. So they're only going through Rich Paul, who's also in the news mill right now for his own sort of drama with Nerlens Noel. And all these things that have happened, the Sixers have to get rid of this guy. It just won't work having him come into this roster. It's going to be similar to the James Harden-esque situation where he clearly doesn't want to be on this team. He's going to look just bad out there on the basketball court. They're going to lose games. And it just makes sense to move him now after essentially dangling him on the trade market for the entire summer. So desperation's time is coming for the Philadelphia 76ers, and we know Daryl Morey doesn't like to be in these sorts of situations, but unfortunately that's the deck he played himself in this game of trade poker, and now he has to move on from Ben Simmons, and there aren't a lot of great offers from everything that's being reported out there, and I guess the Toronto Raptors do have some assets that could be sent back in theory.
Yeah, well, he's done everything in his power unwillingly to really decimate the trade value of Ben Simmons. And they knew from the beginning that they're trading on a low, which is never what you want. But after his playoff performance, it is the way it is. But, repeatedly insisting that you get 5-6 first-round picks and an all-star caliber player, that's just too much for any team. Nobody sees the upside in Ben Simmons. I don't see why they haven't made a trade with the likes of Sacramento Kings or Golden State Warriors. Just do a deal, right? Even if you got back a Buddy Hield type player, your team is going to improve because you just run the ball through Embiid more and you actually have a guy who can score at the 1 or 2 position wherever you decide to play him. But, it's not a 76ers Digest podcast. It's the Raptors podcast. I'll stand on my laurels, or I'll stand on the first thing that I said in defense of Ben Simmons, is that If we brought him in as a playmaking center, that would be a net positive to this team. And people went crazy in the comment section to say, how on earth can you support making a trade for Ben Simmons? Well, I'll tell you, if you have a DPOY type candidate that can't really shoot the three, well, you know, most centers in the league don't shoot the three efficiently.
And he's 6'10".
Yeah. So, you know, the athleticism, the passing, the playmaking, the rebounding, everything jumps off the page as a center. Now, people say he's undersized. No, he's not. Look at him compared to centers of the league. He stacks up against anybody except Joel Embiid, DeMarcus Cousins, you know, the big boys, but anyone else. So in defense of that, I would still say making a trade as a center would have made sense until we drafted Scotty Barnes and not Jalen Suggs, because we don't have a ton of shooters to put around him. I don't know. Did you break down a video of our recent signing? We just picked up, who was it from Detroit? Svi Mikhailuk or
Svi Mikhailuk or Svi Mikhailuk? I don't know if there's
Svi Mikhailuk. So he's kind of a shooter, 33%, but that would be my
40% the season prior though, Riker. So there's positive things to take away from that.
Yeah, so, you know, I think you and I, we've both been on the same page, except for when Ben Simmons says, I don't want to play in a bad situation like Toronto. Like, okay, you don't want to bring in a guy who wants out before he even gets traded to a franchise. But, you know, everything else considered, you bring Ben Simmons in as a center. You know, we were in support of that from the beginning. What would the trade package be that you're comfortable, if any under the sun, that you'd be comfortable to offer 76ers? Now, again, not considering if they'd accept it or not, what's the most you'd be willing to offer?
Well, and you said this obviously is in the 76ers digest, but I think it makes sense to look at the speculative offers just so we have an idea of what we probably would have to give up. And, you know, if the Sixers get desperate enough, there's no chance we're giving up the request that they proposed earlier in this offseason. As I mentioned earlier, a package on the level of a Fred, OG, Kyle Lowry's not our team anymore, but then a top 4 pick. Not near that value is going back to the 76ers. So I'm wiping that off the table. But the Sacramento Kings, the rumored deal involving Sacramento, talks about Ben Simmons going to Sacramento in return for Tyrese Haliburton, who is arguably the second or third best rookie from probably third or fourth best rookie. Anthony Edwards and LaMelo, they established themselves as 1 and 2, right? But Tyrese Haliburton, Buddy Hield, and some filler, and maybe, I think that's it, maybe a second round pick is sort of the deal that's being chatted out, thrown around there in the rumor mill. The Minnesota Timberwolves, a D'Angelo Russell added to a trade as the centerpiece would be the sort of thing going back to Philadelphia in a Ben Simmons deal. So those are the levels of offers that are being thrown out there. And as the report from Shams states, they're not interested in these specific proposals just yet, but the key word at the end of that tweet, or it becomes a full article, we just show the highlight of the tweet here, is the yet. So if those things are on the table, the Raptors would likely have to beat that. I've seen on Raptors Reddit trade machines drew up Gordon Dragic, Chris Boucher, and a couple firsts for Ben Simmons. I'd do that. I definitely do that.
Yeah, you do that in a second. I do that in a second.
Yep, I do that deal. The question is, how far would you go beyond that? Would you maybe, to make it more enticing for Philadelphia, add a Trent to that deal? Right? Obviously, D'Lo's been an all-star. Haliburton's a promising young player, but I think Trent and Boucher, maybe a first or something like that, probably, depending on how high you are on Trent, could outmatch 2 of those offers.
Yeah, but here, you know, it goes back to what I just said, is before we signed Precious Achiuwa and lockdown Kem Birch, and then maybe rumor mill, we might flip Dragic for Moses Brown. Right now, all of a sudden, we went from 0 centers to a couple of centers.
Yep.
We thought we were going to draft Suggs, who was the surefire, shooting ready, scoring ready prospect that was going to come in and have, you know, not the highest ceiling, but certainly the highest floor of a lot of the rookies that are coming in. But we went the opposite way. We went with the guy who only shot 20-ish% in summer league from 3, and he does all of the same things that Ben Simmons does in terms of ball handling and athleticism and playmaking. So, you know, you already have Pascal Siakam 1. Now you've drafted Pascal Siakam 2. You want to trade for Pascal Siakam 3. I just don't see what the fit is if you're then trading away Gary Trent Jr. Where is the scoring going to come from on that team? And especially where is the spacing going to come from? So I'd be reluctant to trade Gary Trent Jr., not because he's the asset that I want to build my core around, or that I'd be afraid to lose him if he develops into this all-star type guy. That's not the reason. It's because I just don't see where the fit would be if you trade away, like, really our only true shooting guard on this team.
Yeah, your only true shooting guard, and you're probably our sixth man, especially if you just look at sixth man in terms of bucket getting Chris Boucher. That's an underrated asset that would be sent back to Philadelphia, who would be a perfect complement at the 4 position for the Philadelphia 76ers. As a guy that still plays defense, can come over and block shots on the weak side, but shoots the 3 pretty well despite an unorthodox form. So I think that would be an interesting deal for the Philadelphia 76ers. In terms of value in a vacuum, yes, I know Ben Simmons is meme to death and people don't like him. I think the Raptors probably win that trade, giving up Trent and Boucher for Simmons, just in terms of talent. But as you brought up, the fit-wise would be weird. But, just thinking about that starting lineup, Riker. Fred VanVleet at the 1. Scotty Barnes at the 2. OG Anunoby at the 3. Pascal Siakam at the 4. And then Ben Simmons at your 5. That's a starting unit that if Ben Simmons can pass, if Scotty Barnes can just be a capable 3-point shooter, Siakam gets back to that 36%, that is by far the best defensive team I've ever thought of in a team I could concoct on the top of my head. Right? That is a ferocious defensive lineup. Ben Simmons being able to play make at the 5 position, right? Have Siakam running those wings, have OG splashing corner 3s with, I know I've been hyping up his handle, but you guys gotta watch these highlight videos this summer. This man's is doing behind the backs, between the legs, tapping the wall, Riker, doing all those drills you and I used to do as kiddos, getting that game up. OG's handles, they're gonna make a proper debut this season. I think talking about length, talking about the direction we're going, that might be an optimum Toronto Raptors squad, right? Just, you wait for Scotty Barnes to develop. Sure, the spacing might be weird for one season, but, the Toronto Raptors, their young core, just trading a couple of, you might even be trading a 75-cent piece and a 50-cent piece for $1. You might be giving up that little much and considering Ben Simmons' trade value at this point, but I don't know. That could be an enticing lineup, but I tend to agree with you just in terms of fit, in terms of question marks. And would the Sixers even accept that trade, Riker?
I don't know if they would. I don't know if they would. They want picks. I don't know how many picks. I didn't research enough what we could offer in the prospects department, but they're approaching the final hour if they want to deal this guy before the season starts. Yeah. I had read that they'll likely start the season with him and then look to deal him before the trade deadline. But they're in a tough bind because of how he's conducted himself this offseason. Yeah. Like you said, not wanting to attend training camp and just really being vocal about getting his butt all the way out of Philadelphia. So they might just be in a position where, he is commanding what they're going to do, and they're going to have to accept less if they want to get him out of there. And is picking up a Chris Boucher and Trent a bad return? No, not at all. Not at all, because those are 2 gamers, 2 guys that'll come out and shoot the lights out and be a pretty good fit. They'd have to find a point guard, somebody to really handle the ball for them. But, I'd like if they flipped Tobias Harris, we broke it down on the courtside side of things, if they maybe did a deal with Cleveland. So we'll see how it plays out. It's interesting. I think people are going to get upset in the comment section. Yeah. I think they're definitely going to flame that we're even entertaining this idea and we didn't just rant at how stupid this is. But I don't know. I think the same way that you do.
He's a good player. Yeah. But the scoring of Trent and the potential of Trent and Boucher, it'd be tough to give up, but you gotta take risks to win championships. And if Ben Simmons at his peak, at his top value, at playing in a complementary role, particularly at the 5, that could be a risk worth taking. But I'm definitely comfortable with it not happening. I think my enthusiasm, the more I think about it, wanes off, just because we have Precious Achiuwa. We have Precious Adebayo Antetokounmpo Achiuwa. The next Giannis, the next Bam Adebayo. right? The Precious propaganda, it's feeding back into my brain. We have Precious to start at center. It's going to be miles ahead of Ben Simmons, so we don't even need him, Riker. We got our own squad. Our team makes sense as is. But let us know what you guys think. Do you guys want to see us trade for Ben Simmons? Right? Let us know in the comment section below. What deal would you like to see be made done? Would you trade Trent and Boucher in a potential package? We want to hear your trade machines cooked up in the comment section. Check us out on Instagram, the TikTok, all that cool stuff. Riker, you have any last words on Ben Simmons to the Toronto Raptors?
Hopefully this is the last report we have to break down on this man, because people are going to rage quit the channel if we talk about him anymore, Ben. Cheers.